Welcome, everybody. We are here once again for a Donald Trump coronavirus press briefing, during which we will no doubt hear lies and distortions from Donald Trump. But hopefully we will get some facts and actual data from some of the doctors who hopefully are on the stage. Some of you may notice, by the way, I am wearing my Data Mail t-shirt. It came in, as you can see. Hold on. There it is. I do have it now, and it's beautifully constructed, 100% cotton, just an amazing, amazing shirt. And I know that they are starting to be delivered to a lot of different people who have ordered them, and there is still time for you to grab one. Very, very, very exciting stuff. We have sort of increasingly, there's kind of two realities that we have in the United States. And so there's one reality in the United States, which is the one around the world, which is the cases are increasing dramatically. I posted today to my Twitter page, as you might see here. Where was this? Here it is. Case numbers. It took months to get our first 100,000 cases. It took 12 days to get the second 100,000 cases. It took only 3 days to get to the third and fourth 100,000 cases. It took only 2 days to get to 500,000. And as we speak, we are already up to 525,000. In that context, Donald Trump wants to start opening it up and letting her rip. Now, for people who don't know about where let her rip comes from, Anthony Fauci mentioned it. Hold on. Fauci let rip. Where is it? Here it is. This is the origin where Anthony Fauci sort of, when they started thinking about this idea, Anthony Fauci is the one who equated just ignoring all social distancing and, quote, letting her rip. This is where it came from. Take a listen, and we'll move up a little bit here. Oop, and I'm sorry, I don't actually have that hooked up correctly. I had speakers turned on. Let me get back into our system. There we go. Okay, now we should be able to hear it.
Multiple actions exponentially. It's the difference between life and death.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think I'd like to have Anthony answer that, because to be honest, that's what he does. And we had a lot of very talented people telling us what they think we should do.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I think that's a false equivalency to compare traffic accidents with. I mean, that's totally way out. That's really a false equivalency. When you have something that is new and it's emerging, and you really can't predict totally the impact it's going to have, and you take a look at what's going on in China, and you see what's going on right now in Italy, and what's happening in New York City, I don't think with any moral conscience you could say, why don't we just let it rip and happen?
There it is. So letting it rip.
And let X% of the people die. I don't understand that reasoning.
Right. Well, that's what Trump now wants to do. And that's why there's more and more speculation that that Anthony Fauci may not be around that much longer. 525,000 known global cases makes the real likely number somewhere between 2 and 5 million. In the United States, another 13,000 cases today. We are now number one. You know, Trump wants to make America great again. We're number one in a lot of bad things. We're number one in total cases. Of course, that's not adjusted to the population. Of course, this is also not the real number. We're having the most new cases daily. We don't yet have the most deaths, but I would not be surprised if we start going in that direction. And within the United States, of course, it's still regionalized to some degree. I mean, New York has 38,000 of the 81,000 cases, but New Jersey now is having numbers that are starting to rival New York in terms of new case numbers. Half of that. California, Michigan having big gains. Here in Massachusetts, we picked up 600 new cases today. This is hard to imagine a worse time to think about opening it up and letting it rip. So we'll see. And, you know, Trump essentially, in a way, Trump knows it, because in the last 2 days of press conferences, there's no discussions of case numbers. There's no discussions of the death toll. It's all about stocks, checks, companies, Boeing, unemployment benefits, ventilators that he says GM is manufacturing, but they're not. So this is very quickly getting to be, you know, it didn't start in the United States, but Trump was late to begin with. Now it's actually getting to the point where it may get the worst here than it has been anywhere, and it's growing exponentially, and it's a complete and total mess. Welcome on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We are a few minutes, maybe. Yesterday, they were about 45 minutes late starting. Of course, anybody who wants to support the streams, which have been daily, consider yourself invited to grab a membership on my website at joinpacman.com. We had a bit of a delayed effect, but we are now getting hit very hard from people understandably having to tighten their belts. We're going to look at unemployment numbers in a second. A lot of people furloughed, losing jobs. So we're going to, the next few months will be very, very tough for us. So if you aren't, I don't want your last $2, right? But if you are in the part of our audience that can afford to support the work we do, a membership for a couple of bucks a month on my website is very much appreciated at joinpacman.com. Okay, let's get into some of the super chats that are coming in. Oh, first let me say thanks to bswizzle24 for the Twitch subscription and also for the cheer. I appreciate both of those. Also, thanks to Burger Me's on Twitch. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button. Both really do a lot for us. It's free. The buttons are drop the buttons, very much free. Super chats are coming in. Paul JM says, quick question. The drugs they sent to New York, is it going to be used in a clinical trial or directly on patients? Love the show. Trump lies all the time, so we don't know. The drugs sent to New York are it's one of 4 treatment modalities that are part of a clinical trial. It seems in addition, Trump just had a whole bunch sent maybe for compassionate use. We don't know what's going on. I mean, this is the whole point. We don't know what the hell's going on. Beezus says, you have disgustingly hairy arms. Shave your triceps. Are you crazy? Are you nuts? I'm going to start shaving my arms. Everything I have going on, I'm going to start shaving arms. It's a toxic idea. Never. Michaela McGonigal says, thanks for by the way, this is called Semitic hair. What can I do about it? Michaela McGonigal says, thanks for making these so bearable to watch. Appreciate everything you do, David. Keep it up. Thank you, Michaela. Thank you, Michaela. Colin Schmidt says, anyone who voted for Donald Trump should get him a primary care physician since they trust him to make medical decisions. Should get him as a primary care physician, maybe you meant? Donna Williams says, thank you, David. I don't watch these live fests without you. Yeah, don't, remember the Visa commercials? Don't leave home without it. Don't watch Trump press conferences without some assistance. I think that's very good advice. Alien P says, the 3-month shutdown didn't destroy China's economy. Why should it destroy the U.S. economy? China is booming right now. I don't know if China's booming. I'm not up to speed. And also, would they tell us the truth? Would they even give us the right information? I don't know about that. But there's no question that if we just decided, hey, all 50 governors were shutting it down for 2 full months, 2.5, 3, maybe 3 full months, we would already be close to a month in had we started when it made sense, by the way. We would survive. Of course we would survive. There's no question about it. Okay, let me say a huge thank you. This is just like a brutally huge thank you to Jason Bryden. Jason is new member number 1 today at joinpacman.com. Jason, you're the man. Very much appreciate it. Jason Bryden has signed up. And also David Van Ripper. It's probably Van Riper, but I find Van Ripper to be more interesting. David Van Riper is new member number 2 today at joinpacman.com. Also very much appreciate your support. We are waiting for Donald Trump and hopefully some doctors and people who know stuff at the top of the hour. I hopefully they're not late today because I have a hard out at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, which is in 90 minutes. Yesterday was very short, but they were late. Sometimes they're long, but on time. Sometimes they're long, but late. Nobody really knows. Couple other things to tell you about. Let's see here. What did I want to show you? Okay. Here's Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell earlier today was asked a very good question by a reporter, female reporter. His answer to her, do you work here? Do you work here? Take a listen.
Understanding that, of course, this is a crisis and time is of the essence. This vote began and the public had not yet seen the bill. Lobbyists had seen the bill. And none of the debate had been held in public. There was virtually no public debate on what looks to be the largest bill in American history. Right. Can you explain why that was? And should the public have had more time to understand what this bill is that is meant to help them?
Do you work here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're the elected representatives.
There it is. The guy who is solely responsible for a 10-day delay on this nonsense, asking, do you work here? Do you work here? Incredible. Okay, we do now have live video from inside the room. Another clip I wanted to play for you today. This is from Fox and Friends. Now, if you have these concentric circles, oh, maybe we'll turn down the audio there just so we can listen to this. If you think about sort of like toxic ideology, and then you've got like Trumpism is within that, and then you've got Fox News. Fox and Friends is like very much at the top of the absolute worst. Here's Ainsley Earhart complaining about how, listen, she's staying outside the city, but she's got an apartment in the city, and she needs to, she's got blouses she needs to return, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, take a look.
What's interesting, too, we're talking about this, and every day we're talking about different topics because we're moving in, hopefully, the direction of getting to where China is now or South Korea.
Okay, let's stop it already. They're pretending like we've turned the corner. China and South Korea did things that we're not doing. South Korea tested huge portions of the population, contact tracing, quarantining everybody who tests positive, even asymptomatic. China had an authoritarian lockdown for 2 months. They're now acting like we're kind of in the same, we're starting to go, we're not going in that direction. But regardless, let's continue.
Is now and just getting some improvement. But I was thinking, I live in the city. You can't go back to the, you can, but I don't want to because I don't want to be around the area that's infected the most. But I'm thinking like all the bills that are stacking up at my apartment. We've got to think about that kind of thing. If you bought clothing before all of this happened, if you want to...
So millionaire Fox News host working out of her second home or who knows where is worried that some of her bills at her New York apartment might be late, which of course she could be paying online anyway. 3 million people filed for unemployment last week, Ainsley. I hate to break it to you.
Return it, or store's gonna waive that 30-day period where
she might have a blouse, guys. She might have a blouse that if she doesn't bring back to Express, she may not be able to exchange it for the right size. Do you understand what's going on here?
Get your money back if you need to return something. These are all the things. People are staying home. Women, y'all don't think about this, guys, but this is not a priority, but women have to get their hair done. I saw someone tweet out, you're going to see what color our real hair is because our roots are going to grow in.
Right.
Women, all my friends are saying, this is not a priority.
No.
People are dying, and I realize that, but they can't get their nails done. Businesses are closed everywhere. We're in priority mode right now. It's pharmacies and it is grocery stores. Those are really the only places people are going now.
What is that? I'm trying to understand how that actually says, instead of saying, I realize that, she says, I realize that. Is that the accent? I realize that. I never have a good grasp. It sounds like Southeastern, but not Texas. Am I somewhere in the ballpark with it? Anyway, very, very bad. Very, very bad stuff that's going on there. That was not a parody. I know that you might have thought that that was like an SNL skit. That was actually Fox News this morning. Let me say thank you to Nick Lex. Nick Lex is new member number 3 today at joinpacman.com. Nick, thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody who's been supporting the streams, especially as we're taking a lot of hits, a lot of cancellations because of what's going on. I very much appreciate everybody who's been signing up. And of course, if you've just entered the YouTube stream, remember to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. This stuff is free, and it really does me a solid when you do it. If people missed last night's David Pakman Show coronavirus quarantine chess tournament, I did not win. We had cheaters. So this is crazy. I did a chess tournament yesterday for viewers of the show, whoever wants to play. I was hoping for 50 participants, all right? 500 people played in my chess tournament yesterday. I came in around 130th out of 500. I'm not that good, and it was no surprise. My chess teacher, Eric Rosen, international master Eric Rosen, appeared, and he won. But people cheated and got caught, okay? There were people who were identified as cheating. And major controversy. Can you imagine cheating in the David Pakman Show chess tournament? Like, I mean, is that's what people's lives are down to at this point? It's absolutely insane. Anyway, it was great turnout, and we may do it monthly. I don't know. People seem to like it, and it was just good to do something having nothing to do with coronavirus. How do you cheat? People are asking. I'm not even going to tell you. I love that not everybody knows how to cheat. And I'm certainly not going to tell you how to do it. Okay. Let's see here. Sexy Swag has become a soy boy level YouTube member. Skitoshi Nakayobro says, even after accepting this situation, it still gets me genuinely scared sometimes. Is this normal? Yeah, I every once in a while, especially when I look at the numbers, I will start to look at these numbers and the completely, vertical increase that we are now experiencing, and it is very scary. I mean, look at this. It's almost off the screen. This is going up so quickly. I totally understand that. I share that feeling. Lethal B says, "Do you believe?" Oh, hold on. Lethal B says, "Where was that? Do you believe the numbers coming out of China?" I really don't know. I truly don't know. WHO officials say they do believe them. So, that's something. AC says to already have a membership, so here's $5 just because I think you're cool. Thanks, AC. Charlie says, how did chess go? Did you win? Okay, I just addressed that. Twinkle Twinkle says Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Alexander Salinas says, when should I expect my corona check? Thanks, David. 3 weeks. I have video. I mean, while we're here, we might as well look at the video. Here's Stephen Mnuchin talking about this morning on CNBC.
Now is Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. First, Mr. Secretary, congratulations on the record time you put this together, particularly versus 2007, 2009. When will the checks be in the mail?
Well, Jim, first of all, thanks for having me back, and I want to thank the Senate for their swift action. People literally...
Yeah, the Senate delayed it unnecessarily 10 days.
Worked round the clock for 5 days,
Loser.
and the President and I and others couldn't be more pleased with the absolute unanimous support.
You couldn't be more pleased. Wow.
On a bipartisan basis to get this done. In regards to the checks, I announced yesterday from the White House press conference, first of all, most of these will be direct deposits, so we call them checks in the mail, but most of them will be direct deposits. It'll be within 3 weeks. We are determined to get money in people's pocket immediately. So that will be within 3 weeks.
So a couple things on that, and I had a tweet about this earlier as well. Where are my tweets? Here they are. So first of all, within 3 weeks, maybe, if they get it passed soon. But more importantly, that only applies to the group of people who qualify, filed their taxes in 2018 or 2019, got a refund, and got the refund via direct deposit. You have to meet all those requirements in order to get the direct deposit in 3 weeks. Otherwise, it could be 3 to 5 weeks beyond that. So if there's no delay, half of the recipients are looking at 6 to 8 weeks, if not longer. That's 2 months or longer. Now consider the incongruity of what's going on. On the one hand, we have many governors extending stay-home orders into April or past April into May. Here in Massachusetts, schools are now closed until early May. Trump says we're winning and he wants to open up and let it rip on April 12th. The most optimistic date where half of the country would get their checks would not be until after the economy will be back open, according to Trump. The other half aren't going to get their checks until optimistically May 7th. And then meanwhile, cases and deaths continue to explode while Trump doesn't even mention them during these press briefings. How does the timing of any of this stuff make sense? Like, on what planet does any of what's going on make sense? It's absolutely ludicrous. Let me say thank you to Jacob Nyland. Jacob Nyland is new member number 4 today at joinpacman.com. Alex Never is new member number 5 today at joinpacman.com. I see a lot of people saying, David, you're wearing a t-shirt. This is the Data Mail t-shirt. Now I'm doing it. This is the Data Mail t-shirt available on my website. I'll show it to you. Hold on. Okay. Available in multiple colors. It's fresh out of the box, so it's looking a little odd. But this is the viewer designed Data Mail t-shirt that we are selling. We'll sell the Beta Mail t-shirts at some point in the future. For now, we are only selling Data Mail t-shirts. And I think we've sent them to 8 or 9 countries so far, or something like that. It's very quickly rivaling the black coffee mug as the most popular item in my online store. Welcome if you're joining us on Twitch. Twitch now. I want to say thanks to Zelix for subscribing with Prime. Adam Punk has sent some bits. Ancient Nicholas has also subscribed with Prime, which I appreciate. The next t-shirt is going to be Theta Mail. That would be a good one. And it could just be It'll just be the Greek letter theta. We don't even have to spell it out. That's kind of a cool idea too. Okay, other super chats coming in. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Lee Douglas says, thank you for covering the briefings. You make the lies tolerable. I'm a site member and watch all your streams and daily show. We love you, David. Thank you, Lee. Love you too. Really appreciate the support. Beezus says, not your forearms, your triceps and biceps. Can you imagine if what I decide to do is shave my biceps? Why on earth would I do that? Plus, then if I go to the beach and take my shirt off and my forearms are hairy and the rest of my arm is shaved, I don't know much about shaving arms because I've never done it, but it sounds like that would be weird. That sounds like it would be very, very weird. Thanks to Michael Capellis for grabbing a YouTube membership. Taika says furloughed, but doing okay. Appreciate the streams. Thank you, Taika. A user who goes by the name I Fart Magic. How is GM making anything if they're shut down? Oh, you're thinking too logically. That doesn't that's not how Trump thinks. Alexander Jones says, how would a debate against Ben Shapiro go for you? I don't know. There's actually a pretty funny clip. Let me see if I can find it. This is a funny thing. This is a really old thing. Pacman Ben Shapiro. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, there's a really funny moment from this interview that I did. I'm just trying to find that one moment, but it doesn't look like I can. Let's see if I can find it here. Where exactly was that? I think it's right around here. Let's take a look.
Later in that same show, after I left, he admitted it, that if he had his druthers, he would get rid of all guns on American soil.
Yeah, the only thing is that Justice Antonin Scalia has said a lot of the same things that Piers Morgan has said. I think that we get a little muddled when we talk about exactly what the founders intended, because let's be honest, everything was very different when the founders wrote that Second Amendment. So I don't know that just saying we have I don't like the focus on the commas in the Second Amendment, so to speak.
Well, but no, I don't think that's true, though. I think that the Second Amendment is largely about human nature. And the fact is that we have seen tyranny on American soil.
There's a particular spot I'm looking for, and I guess maybe it's later. Let me see here. Let's just check it out and see if it's here.
Cannot own. It's a restriction on what the state can do. And what it says that the state can do is it says that the state is not allowed to infringe your right to bear arms. Now the question becomes, what is the definition of arms, right?
So I think, I think most likely, this is interesting because we could probably go on 20 more minutes and we probably wouldn't come to an agreement on this. But I think this is really, we were doing fine agreeing on a lot of stuff until we got to this. And I think this is where a lot of people are getting lost also, I think.
It's a very simple argument from my point of view, and that is that people, if they have the right to bear arms in order to prevent tyranny, then that goes for arms to prevent, that goes to the ultimate limit of that is the arms necessary to prevent, basically you can own any arm that is necessary, not to prevent tyranny.
Well, this is good because in Waco.
So that's the moment that a lot of people like. Let's just listen to that one more time because I'm trying to follow the argument.
The Second Amendment doesn't prevent you from doing anything. I mean, the First Amendment doesn't prevent you from doing anything.
So you're okay with the states drawing the lines on what guns you can have, but not the federal government?
It's a restriction on government, right? I mean, the Second Amendment is not created as a restriction on individual. It's not a law about what guns you can and cannot own. It's a restriction on what the state can do. And what it says that the state can do is it says that the state is not allowed to infringe your right to bear arms. Now the question becomes, what is the definition of arms, right?
So I think most likely, this is interesting because we could probably go on 20 more minutes and we probably wouldn't come to an agreement on this. But I think this is really, we were doing fine agreeing on a lot of stuff until we got to this. And I think this is where a lot of people are getting lost also, I think.
It's a very simple argument from my point of view.
Okay,
and that
I'm
is
listening now.
That people, if they have the right to bear arms in order to prevent tyranny, then that goes for arms to prevent, that goes to the ultimate limit of that is the arms necessary to prevent, basically you can own any arm that is necessary, not to prevent tyranny.
Well, this is good because I'm just not understanding it. I'll tell you, I don't really know exactly what he's talking about there. But that anyway, that's probably the most widely shared moment from my interview with Ben Shapiro back in the day. Let me say thank you to Karmic Brutality Gaming as well as I Am CompuBear and Hackly for the Twitch subscriptions. Let me also say thanks to Chip Lamfear. Chip Lanfear is new member number 6 today at joinpacman.com. Thanks, Chip. I really do appreciate your support very, very much. Okay. Colin Schmidt says, thank you, David. That's what I meant, facepalm. Okay. Eric Hendrickson says, U.S. more cases than China with a population of 1.5 billion. Ugly, ugly stuff. And the real number is probably higher because we are still not really testing. Dex Dark says, thanks for all of the coverage and staying level-headed through all of this. Helps a ton. Love from California. The tidal wave is coming. That Chulo sends a super chat. Ian says, David plus no haircut for months equals disaster. Yeah, even the side of my hair, I'm almost starting to get like payas, and I'm not even an Orthodox Jew, but it's like naturally growing into that. It's really, really weird. And as you can see, it's like, it's not good. It's very, very much not good. I think it almost is going like a foot up right now. It's going to be a while, unfortunately. Yep. It's just, I don't even get it. I actually think that there's probably some kind of physics class in what's going on here, but probably exceeds the scope of my my knowledge of mechanical physics. Okay. If you're just joining us, they are, of course, 18 minutes late starting this press conference, and we are wondering if it'll happen soon. If you are joining me on YouTube, I would love it if you hit the like button and the subscribe button. Both are really, really useful and doesn't cost anything and really does a lot to help the streams. I also want to say thank you and welcome to Jacob Belka, Jacob's new member number 777 at joinpacman.com. Lucky sevens, as no one I know ever says. Maria Amaro has grabbed a YouTube membership. Make It Simple says, please arm wrestle Ben Shapiro or Kyle. They're weak. You know, I think during the times of physical distancing, that's unlikely to happen. Alexander Jones says, how would a debate go against Steven Crowder go? Is that the comedian that came up during my Joe Rogan appearance? I barely even know who that is. I don't know. This is going to be good. I know it. Says, I'm American. My wife is a German green card holder, as are my kids. Any idea whether we'll get full support for them too or only $1,200? I don't know the answer to that. Cooking with Kale says, I have a life-saving COVID gravity hookah ventilator that can be bought from Home Depot and Electronics Hobby Store. Instruction in pandemic cookbook. Okay, I have no clue whether that's an inside joke or something serious. I don't know. Gunnar Emerson has grabbed a YouTube membership. Raghu Ariga says, Ainsley Earhart doesn't surprise me. My colleague is a boomer Trumpist, and she was worried about getting her nails done. Then the pandemic. Yikes. Jim Griffin has grabbed a Soy Boy membership. Unknown Prodigy says, I quit because I played a cheater. It was obvious. Yeah, there were unfortunately some cheaters yesterday during the chess tournament. Shanro says, greetings from Holland. Keep up the great work. Cat Cookie and TatCat66 both grab YouTube subscriptions. Brian Straight says, don't you find this to be a complete and total waste of time? Not really. I mean, I'm interested in seeing what the narrative is from the White House. I'm interested in hearing what questions the reporters ask. Very often things we talk about, like 5 days later, they make their way into the briefings, not through me, but just like corporate media catches up with what's being discussed on independent media. And, I get to hear from you guys and figure out what's on your mind, which I also very, very much enjoy doing. So I don't think it's a waste of time. Aaron Nance has grabbed a Twitch Prime subscription, says, when do you think mainstream media will report that the U.S. has beat China and Italy for most positive and active cases of the coronavirus? I would assume tonight, but I barely watch corporate media, so I don't know. Thanks to Dragonfly Back Home, Terrady, Wisdom CND, Good Old Sport, as well as Lyceus, Old Man Beef, and the anonymous gifter who gifted a sub to Trump for president. Oh boy. Very much appreciate all of those subscriptions. The Vegan Villainess says, I looked and behold an ashen horse, and he who sat on it had the name of willful ignorance. Joking aside, thanks for keeping us sane, David. Thank you for the support. Alvaro Bazan says PPNR laid off all part-time employees. We need Bernie. BT says, I've come to rely on you for level-headed commentary that's just snarky enough to be entertaining without being petty or clickbaity. Thank you. I love that. I love that assessment. Daniel Rivera says, release the full Pac-Man tournament report, hashtag Chessgate. Yeah, so I did a post-mortem of the chess tournament on today's bonus show. So anyone who gets a membership on my website, listen to today's bonus show, and you will hear the full breakdown as well as some game analysis from last night's tournament. Armando Salazar has signed up at joinpacman.com and is new member number 8 of 25. Thank you, Armando. Very much appreciate your support as we wait for yet another press briefing. Blake Feely says Canada's giving $4,000 for 3 months, 4,00. Is there a missing zero or is that an incorrect comma? $400 for 3 months? I don't know. Judas Andrade sends a $1 super chat. Mike Valverde says, should major networks stop airing these conferences? Here's what I said yesterday about that. Networks should air them, but fact check in real time. Like actually devote some resources to fact checking in real time. Otherwise, I don't know. Then it's less of a. I think they should be aired and fact checked. That's what I try to do. Thanks to Peter Katborg for signing up on YouTube. Andronic Massey says, I saw someone watching your show on their TV today. No, like you walked outside someone's house and inside my face was on the TV. That's interesting. Ryan Boysclair says you can do the sign for male as well after theta male. That's interesting. That's not a bad t-shirt. Tat Cat says you're a voice of reason in a time of insanity. Thank you. Waffles Giraffle says, here's your daily money in crippled 50-character sentences. Thank you, Waffles. Syra Delarev says, I'm digging the hairstyle. Arm hair is cool. Yeah, I do have a lot of thick Semitic arm hair. Can't do much about it. Just the way it is, my friends. Just the way it is. Let's see here. Looks like we're getting closer as we now have close to all of the seats that will be full. I'll remind you, if you're just joining us, we are also now streaming on Facebook as well as Twitter. Want to say welcome to the folks watching on Facebook. Facebook's so unpredictable. Sometimes we'll have 1,500 people watch on Facebook, and then sometimes we have just a few hundred like right now. I really don't know what it is that triggers, for lack of a better term, people to watch on Facebook. And remember, we do have a goal of 25 website members. We're at 8, which is nothing to sneeze at, just shy of a third. But consider yourself invited to grab a membership at joinpacman.com. People asking whether Dr. Birx will get a chance to speak today or Fauci. You never know. You just never know. Zachary Monroe says, thoughts on Star Trek, my favorite TV franchise. I know nothing about Star Trek. I've seen the two, if there are only 2, I've seen both or 2 of the new Star Trek movies. And otherwise, I just know very, very little about Star Trek. Simric says, David's arms and his attitude against shaving are the most alpha data male thing I've ever seen. I just have been forgetting to shave. Like every day is the same. And I'm just not really shaving. I don't know. What's the point at this point in time? I might actually, I was thinking about trying to do some fundraiser where, like, by next week, if I don't shave, it's going to be a pretty grim situation. Maybe I do something. There must be some way to turn this into some kind of fundraiser. I don't know what it would be. Like, every day we add $1. And if that donation is met, then I keep not shaving or something like that. I don't really know. Yeah, this is a year of growth. It's been a year since I shaved, for people who are asking. No, this is a week, to be perfectly frank. This is a week. There's Dr. Birx, Dr. Anthony Fauci, looking spry at 79. Very, very spry guy. Dr. Birx standing almost as far as humanly possible from Dr. Fauci there. Very interesting. Let me say thank you to Peyton Evans. Peyton Evans is new member number 9 today at joinpacman.com. Thank you, Peyton. Very much appreciate that support. And remember, we are not means testing the coupon code. The coupon code 2020 now is 66% off. Absolutely no means testing. It's done. You decide whether you want the discount or not. We don't get involved in it. Crypto Monkey says, thank you for being a voice for a sane America. Love from Australia. Here is Donald Trump, followed by Mike Pence.
Hello, thank you very much. Thank you. Beautiful day. Very good what you're doing. Look at all those empty seats.
Let me see if it's louder on this feed.
Very good what you're doing. Look at all those empty seats.
I guess this is a little
Never
louder.
seen it like that. Oh boy, how the world has changed. How the world has changed, right? But it's going to end up being better than ever. I want to thank you very much for being here, and I'd like to update you on the steps we're taking on our ongoing fight to defeat the virus. This morning at 7:55, I spoke to the leaders of the G20, had a great meeting, and we have a lot of different ideas, a lot of good ideas. We're working together. The leaders gathered virtually around the world to discuss the whole subject of the problem that right now 151 nations have got. We had President Alberto Fernandez of Argentina, Prime Minister Scott Morrison of Australia, President Jair Bolsonaro of Brazil,
like
Prime
Jeremy.
Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada, President Xi of China, President Emmanuel Macron of France, Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany, Prime Minister Modi of India, President Widodo of Indonesia, Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte of Italy, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe of Japan. Congratulations to Japan on making a great decision on the Olympics. Going to make it next year, 2021.
What on earth?
President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador of
That's a
Mexico.
mouthful.
I want to thank the President of Mexico for having done such a great job with respect to the military. We have 27,000 Mexican soldiers on our southern border, and very few people are getting through, I can tell you that. And we got to keep it that way. And we have a great relationship with Mexico now. President Putin of Russia, King Salman of Saudi Arabia, President Ramaphosa of South Africa.
You know, they could just release
President
a list.
Moon of, as you know, a country that we spend a lot of time in, South Korea. We're working very hard on that. Prime Minister Sanchez of Spain, President Erdogan of Turkey.
It's Erdogan, but everybody knows who's in the G20. I just don't. Why is he listing? Why is he listing countries?
European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. President of the European Council, Charles Michel. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. World Health Organization Director Tedros Adhanom. World Bank President David Malpass. And the International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva.
Right.
So that's a big group, but it's a great group. It's and they were all there, every one of them, and we talked about the problem.
The invisible
and hopefully
scourge.
It won't be a problem for too much longer. The United States is working with our friends and partners around the world to stop the spread of the virus and coordinate our efforts. We discussed how vitally important it is for all of our nations to immediately share information and data, and we've been doing that to a large extent, but we'll do it even more so, and to inform our, I guess you could say, inform each of us on the fight that we've got going one way or the other. It's a little bit different, but we're handling it a little bit in different ways. But there is great uniformity, I think. It was a terrific meeting, tremendous spirit among all of those countries. You had 20 countries plus the other people that I mentioned, and tremendous spirit to get this over with. After the meeting with the world leaders, I spoke with the governors of our 50 states and territories. Our team has been in constant communication with the governors, and we had a terrific meeting. Somebody in the fake news said that one of the governors said, "Oh, we need Tom Brady." I said, "Yeah." He meant that in a positive way. He said, "We need Tom Brady. We're going to do great." And he meant it very positively, but they took it differently. They think Tom Brady should be leading the effort.
What?
That's only fake news, and I like Tom Brady. Spoke to him the other day. He's a great guy.
What?
But I wish the news could be could be real. I wish it could be honest. I wish it weren't corrupt. But so much of it is. It's so sad to see. Just so sad to see. We had a great meeting. I tell you what, I'm sure you have tapes of the meeting. I'm sure that you were able to get tapes very easily. So you had 50 governors plus. And if you had tapes, you'd see it was really, I mean, there's no contention. I would say virtually.
They should carry Trump out on their shoulders right now.
One person, there was a little tiny bit of a raising of a voice, a little wise guy, a little bit. But he's usually a big wise guy, not so much anymore. We saw to it that he wouldn't be so much anymore, but he is.
We saw to it?
I mean, I would rate Mike was there. A lot of the folks in the back were there. And it was a great meeting. Took place at about 12 o'clock. So we went from the G20 to the governors. We also spoke about the economic relief with the governors and the package that we're moving through Congress to deliver much-needed financial assistance to hardworking families and small businesses. I want to thank Democrats and Republicans in the Senate for unanimously passing the largest financial relief package in American history, 96-0, and I have to say it's the largest by far. And I'm profoundly grateful that both parties came together to provide relief for American workers and families in this hour of need. The House of Representatives must now pass this bill, hopefully without delay. I think it's got tremendous support. When you're at 96-0, and as you know, a couple of those people are quarantined, and one, Rand Paul, he's actually got it. But he'll be better. He's been a great guy. He's been a great friend of mine, actually.
Got it.
The massive $2.2 trillion relief package includes job retention loans for small businesses with loan forgiveness available for businesses that keep their workers on the payroll. It's pretty good. Loan forgiveness. Keep the workers on the payroll. It's pretty good. Direct cash payments will be available to American citizens earning less than $99,000 per year, $3,400 for the typical family of four. Expanded unemployment benefits. The average worker who has lost his or her job will receive 100% of their salary for up to 4 full months. These are things that, by the way, we have plenty more to go, but they're things that nobody's ever had any package like this done. And I just want to thank them. Hopefully it'll get approved equally.
He's talking like we're on the tail end of this and still not mentioning the death toll or case numbers. It's like it's not. He doesn't even bring that up anymore.
Everybody, there could be one vote, one grandstander maybe. You might have one grandstander. And for that, we'll have to come back and take a little more time, and it'll pass. It'll just take a little longer. But let's see whether or not we have a grandstander. Critical support for the hardest hit industries with a ban on corporate stock buybacks and tough new safeguards to prevent executive compensation abuse. Over $100 billion for our amazing doctors, nurses, and hospitals. $45 billion for the Disaster Relief Fund, more than doubling the amount available. This is tremendous stuff. $27 billion for the coronavirus response, including $16 billion to build up the strategic national stockpile with critical supplies, including masks, respirators, and all sorts of pharmaceuticals. $3.5 billion to expand assistance to child care providers and child care benefits to healthcare workers, first responders, and others on the front lines of the crisis. And these are really brave, incredible people, I have to say. And some of them are getting sick, and some of them are getting very sick, and some of them don't even recover. They're incredible people. $1 billion for Defense Production Act procurement. We are, as you know, using the act, but we use it only when necessary. We use it as leverage. We generally don't have to use it to accomplish what we want to accomplish. As of today, FEMA has shipped over 9 million N95 masks, 20 million face masks, 3.1 million face shields, nearly 6,000 ventilators, 2.6 million gowns, 14.6 million gloves, and we're sending more every day, and we've got tremendous amounts of equipment coming in. A lot of great companies are making equipment right now. The ventilators, obviously, they take a little longer to make, but we have a lot of companies making them, and we're going to be in great shape. We took over an empty shelf. We took over a very depleted place in a lot of ways.
Can you imagine?
As you know, the testing is going very, very well.
Lie.
And that was obsolete and broken, and we fixed it, and it's been going really good.
All lies.
And I think, very importantly, the stockpile, we're really filling it up, and we fill it up rapidly, but
They're filling the stockpile. You got to get the stockpile out to people.
And again, the state has to be doing this kind of a thing also. We're sort of we look from behind a little bit, and we look at how are they doing, and if they need help, we do it. But it's their first responsibility. Sometimes they just can't get it. But we load it up and we send it out. But if we can, we have it sent directly to the state. We want it to go directly to the point where we want it. I can now announce something that I think is incredible, what they've done in the Navy, because the incredible naval hospital ship, the USNS Comfort, which is incredible, actually, when you see it inside, will be underway to New York City on Saturday.
Right.
So it's going to be leaving on Saturday rather than 3 weeks from now. They did the maintenance quickly, and it was going to be there for quite a while longer, another 3 or 4 weeks, and it should be arriving. I told the governor 20 minutes ago, Governor Cuomo, that the ship will be arriving at New York Harbor on Monday. I think I'm going to go out and I'll kiss it goodbye. I'll go to, it's in Virginia, as you know, and I will go and we'll be waving together because I suspect the media.
Shouldn't he just stay at the White House?
Will be following. John, are you going to be following? Maybe. You never know, huh?
It's a very important vessel.
Great ship. It's a great vessel, is right. So if you want to go, I'll see you there. And if you
He's
don't,
being
that's
serious,
okay.
guys.
After being fully loaded with medical supplies, it's loaded up to the top, and it's over at the Norfolk Naval Base. That's where it departs. It is expected then to, we're saving about 3 to 4 weeks by the incredible work done by the Navy.
As if what they need in trying to launch this thing quickly is the president's motorcade there, right?
Go. The ship will arrive, and I believe it's going to get a little bit of a ceremony. There's something very beautiful about it. It's an incredible piece of work. Going to be landing at Pier 90 in Manhattan to provide hospital surge capacity for the New York metropolitan area. So it's a surge capacity. They may use it for this, or they may have other people coming in from hospitals unrelated to the virus, and then they'll use those hospitals on land. They'll use those hospitals for the virus, but we'll see how they do it. They could do it either way, one way or the other, whichever one is best. But it could be, because it's set up so well for a regular hospital, that they may take people out of hospitals and then use those rooms for the virus. The
virus is
National
going to get a
Institute
hotel
of
room.
Health and the
Hospital
private
room.
sector, working closely with the FDA, continue to collaborate to discover and test treatments and therapies that can effectively reduce the duration and symptoms of the virus and very much help people to recover. And I'm firmly committed to bringing these treatments to market very quickly. We have a lot of tests going on with regard to different medicines.
Yeah.
And I hope we get lucky. I hope we hit. A lot of talented scientists and doctors are working on therapeutics, a cure, vaccines. I think we're doing very well.
Many exciting new products for coronavirus customers are on the way.
To the vaccines, I think we're doing well with regard to a lot of the things I just mentioned, but we'll have to see what happens. We're going to know fairly soon about a lot of them. But it's very advanced, and the vaccines are very advanced prior to, as you know, a fairly reasonably long test period of in that case, over a year. Every American should be proud of the incredible spirit our country has brought to this effort. It's been incredible. Citizens from all walks of life have come together to turn the tide in this battle. We're witnessing the extraordinary power of American unity like a lot of people have never seen. Even getting a vote. You're talking about trillions of dollars and you get a vote of 96 to nothing. We are waging war on this virus using every financial, scientific, medical, pharmaceutical, and military resource to halt its spread and protect our citizens. I want to express our tremendous thanks to the American people for continuing to practice social distancing like you people are practicing right here. I don't know, this room may never be the same.
Yeah, you can tell which things are not on the piece of paper.
And follow government guidelines. Vice President Pence lifts up that card every time. And it's not very complicated, but hopefully you can do that. And your commitment will make all the difference in the world. And that's one of the big ones will be, for a while, stay home. Just relax, stay home. Making a lot of progress. As we continue to gather more information and accelerate the testing, where we're doing record numbers of tests now, far more than any other country has done.
Not per capita.
I told you yesterday, 8 days here, because you heard so much about South Korea. The media kept talking about South Korea, South Korea. We have a great relationship with President Moon in South Korea. But when I hear so much about South Korea, so in 8 days, we do more testing than they did in 8 weeks. And it's a very highly sophisticated test.
The best test.
We'll be able to deploy even more data-driven and targeted approaches to slow the ultimately, it's a very devastating thing, but we will vanquish this virus.
Vanquish.
A lot of progress has been made.
Progress.
That's why earlier today I sent a letter to America's governors describing how we will be using the data to update existing guidance on social distancing, which will be developed in close coordination with our nation's public health officials and scientists. Because of the sacrifices of our great doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals, the brilliance of our scientists and researchers, and the goodness and generosity of our people, I know that we will achieve victory and quickly return to the path of exceptional health, safety, and prosperity for all of our citizens. We have to get back to work. Our people want to work. They want to go back. They have to go back. And we're going to be talking about dates. We're going to be talking with a lot of great professionals. But this is a country that was built on getting it done. And our people want to go back to work. I'm hearing it loud and clear from everybody. So we'll see what happens. We're going to have a lot more information early next week, and we'll be reporting that back. But I just want to leave it with you. We have to go back. This is the United States of America. They don't want to sit around and wait, and they'll be practicing. And by the way, a lot of people misinterpret when I say go back. They're going to be practicing as much as you can, social distancing and washing your hands and not shaking hands and all of the things that we talk about so much. But they have to go back to work. Our country has to go back. Our country is based on that.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to happen pretty quickly. I think it's going to happen pretty quickly. A lot of progress is made, but we got to go back to work. We may take sections of our country, we may take large sections of our country that aren't so seriously affected, and we may do it that way, but we've got to start the process pretty soon. So we'll be talking to you a little bit more about that next week. And with that, if you have any questions, you could ask, and then I'm going to have
no one else
Vice
gets to
President
talk.
stay behind, and he's going to take questions and also introduce some of the people. You could ask them some questions. John, please.
Mr. President, if I could, unemployment numbers out today, 3.3 million.
Yeah.
I take it not a surprise.
No, not at all.
But still a staggering number.
Oh,
I'm
sure.
wondering about your perspective on that.
Well, it's nobody's fault, certainly not in this country. Nobody's fault. We got very lucky when we made a decision not to allow people in from China at a very early date. I say that because some people
Has
don't
nothing to do
want
with the question.
accept it. But this was a great decision made by our country. or there's the numbers that you're talking about. We're a big country. That'd be far greater, far bigger. So when I heard the number, I mean, I heard it could be 6 million, could be 7 million.
Well, there's still time.
It's
That was last week.
3.3 or 3.2. But it's a lot of jobs. But I think we'll come back very strong. The sooner we get back to work, every day that we stay out, it gets harder to bring it back very quickly. And our people don't want to stay out. So I know those numbers, John, but I think you'll see a very fast turnaround once we have a victory over the hidden enemy, as I say.
The invisible scourge.
Sometimes a hidden enemy is a lot tougher than somebody that stares you in the face, right? So we'll see what happens. But, I mean, they're fully expected numbers, at least. Steve, please.
There's a U.S. proposal to deploy some troops along the Canadian border.
Yeah.
And Prime Minister Trudeau is complaining about that. Why is that necessary?
Well, we have very strong deployments on the southern border, as you know, with Mexico, and we had some troops up in Canada, but I'll find out about that. I guess it's equal justice to a certain extent. But in Canada, we do have troops
Equal justice.
along the border. We have a lot of things coming in from Canada. We have trade, some illegal trade that we don't like. We have very strong sanctions on some. We have very strong tariffs on dumping steel. And we don't like steel coming through our border that's been dumped
Right.
in Canada so they can avoid the tariff. I charge a lot of tariff for the steel. And it's been great for our steel companies because now they can really go. You look at what's happened with steel, it's been pretty incredible. But we've taken in billions and billions of dollars in tariffs on steel. And much of it comes in from China, but they can come through the Canadian border too.
He
so
still
we're always
doesn't
watching
understand
for
how
that.
tariffs work, huh?
The numbers correctly, the United States now has surpassed China as the country with the highest number of virus cases. Does this surprise you at all? Is it following a predictable trajectory?
No, I think it's a tribute to our testing. Number one, you don't know what the numbers are in China. China tells you numbers, and I'm speaking to President Xi tonight, I believe, and we'll have a good conversation, I'm sure. But you just don't know, what are the numbers. But I think it's a tribute to the testing. We're
Beautiful
testing
conversation after I
tremendous
call him a liar here.
numbers of people. And every day, the way the system works, and I want to thank especially Roche has been fantastic, great company.
Did he say Roche?
They've done a tremendous
Roche.
amount. Deborah was telling me before that they've really stepped up to the plate and done great, as have other of the companies, but it seems that they're really doing it
Roche.
particularly well. So
This
we'll
guy.
see what happens there. But it's a tribute to the amount of testing that we're doing. We're doing tremendous testing. And I'm sure you're not able to tell what China is testing or not testing. I think that's a little hard.
This is the president, by the way.
Mr. President, on the 3.3 jobless claims, you just suggested it could 6 to 7 million. A lot of those workers.
No, I didn't say that. No, you're wrong. I didn't say that. I said some people were projecting that it would be 6 or 7, and it's, I believe, 3.3.
Came in at 3.3. Millions of Americans out of work. Some of them will be losing
Let me just
their
tell you guys, the 3.3 was for last week. The projection was 1.6. So Trump's talking about total unemployment. These are just last week, and the numbers were double the projection. So I'm trying to keep up with the fact checking here.
I mean, the things I just read to you are being considered, and other things are being considered. People are going to be getting big checks, and it's not their fault. What happened to them is not their fault. So we're doing a lot of different things on health insurance. We have meetings on it today. We're taking care of our people. This is not their fault, what happened, and we're taking care. We're starting off by sending them very big checks. I think for a family of four, it's about $3,000. And we're taking care of our people. We're taking care of our workers. This was not, as I say, this was not a financial crisis. This was a health crisis, a medical crisis.
Medical.
We're going to take care of our people. Please. Yeah. Please.
The National Restaurant Association came out. National Restaurant
The part about the virus starts soon.
with a survey this morning saying that 3% of all restaurants in this country have shuttered for good in the past 3 weeks. And the projection is that 11% more are going to close in the next 30 days. So what do you say to a restaurant owner who is looking at his sheets and thinks he has to close within the next 30 days?
Well, I know the business very well. I understand the restaurant business. It's a very delicate business. It's a business that it's not easy. I always say in a restaurant business, you can serve 30 great meals to a person or a family, and they love it. One bad meal, Number 31, they never come back again. It's a very tough business, but they're great people that run restaurants. And I've heard 3% could be lost, and you could go as high as 10 or 11%. But they'll all come back in one form or another. It might be a different restaurant, but it's going to be a great business for a lot of people. And we're making it easy for people to look what we're doing. What we're doing in terms of loans, what we're doing in terms of salaries, they'll all come back. It may not be the same restaurant, may not be the same ownership, but they'll all be back. Yes, sir, please.
So you mentioned the pledges from American companies to provide supplies, but does it get, as we top 81,000 cases in the U.S., does it make sense to relook at using the Defense Production Act?
Well, I talked about the Defense Production Act a lot, and I've enacted it. I have.
So understand that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has been lobbying Trump not to use it, and so far he's been listening.
We could withdraw it. But for the most part, the companies, we don't need it. We say, we need this, and they say, don't bother, we're going to do it. I mean, we're dealing with Ford, General Motors, 3M. We're dealing with great companies. They want to do this. They want to do this. They're doing things that frankly, they don't need somebody to walk over there with a hammer and say, do it. They are getting it done. They're making tremendous amounts of equipment, tremendous amounts. And when this is over, we're going to be fully stockpiled, which they would have never been, except for a circumstance. This was something that nobody has ever thought could happen to this country. I'm not even blaming. Look, we inherited a broken situation. But
while he blames Obama, today we learned that the Obama administration literally handed to Trump a 69-page color-coded book called Pandemic Preparedness and How to Deal with a Pandemic. Okay? He's insisting, who knew this could happen?
Maybe that frightens him a little bit. You know, it's got tremendous power, but I haven't had to. Please.
Thank you, sir. A question for me, and then another question, if you'll let me, for some of my colleagues who are social distancing.
Where are they? They're all outside trying to get in, I know.
The first question has to do with cruise liners like Carnival and Royal Caribbean. They want this relief aid, but they're worried that because they offshore to places like Panama and Liberia, they might not qualify. Senator Hawley has said that they should move back to the United States before they get a check. Do you agree? Should they pay U.S. taxes to get U.S. taxpayer relief?
So I'm a big fan of Senator Hawley, and I also like the idea. There were some senators that didn't want to do anything, like Carnival, great company, but they're based in different places. I won't tell you why. I could tell you exactly where they're based, but I won't do that.
We can just Google it.
But they're based in actually more than one places. You know, ships are registered in different locations. I do like the concept of perhaps coming in and registering here, coming into the United States. It's very tough to make a loan to a company when they're based in a different country. But with that being said, they have thousands and thousands of people that work there, and maybe almost as importantly, that work on shore, filling these ships with goods and products. And the cruise line business is very important. And I know Carnival, what a great job they do, Mickey Harrison. And I would think that we could stick with Senator Hawley and maybe really look at that very seriously.
We might very strongly look at it, but we're not going to do it. They can keep the boats registered elsewhere to avoid taxes. We'll still cut them checks.
Number of people outside of the ship itself. I mean, you look at these ports. It's loaded up with shops and people that are involved with the ship. So we're going to work very hard on the cruise line business, and we're going to try and work something out. But I like the concept. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The Senate bill includes aid that's directly tied to the airlines. And since before the pandemic, Boeing was already suffering from the losses of 737 MAX airplanes. Do you think it's appropriate to use this legislation to sort of provide them with $17 billion of aid on top of $25 billion that they could qualify for as a passenger airline, and then another $4 billion that they could qualify for as a cargo airline? Is that fair?
So the airline business is a very tough business. Over many years, it's been very, very tough. It's got everything. It's got labor. It's got very strong, powerful, you look at the cost of these airliners. Everything is tough, very highly technological. You look at how complicated, how complex. It's got unions. It's got everything. The airline business.
Somehow the plane stays up. I mean, you got to get the plane. I mean, we just don't know.
Business. with that being said, we have to keep our airlines going. And we're going to be using some. Now, maybe we'll take a piece of the airlines for our country, where we loan money and we take a piece. It's all fully ready. We're ready to go. But if we didn't do that, we'd end up with no airlines, and we can't do that. The airline business is very vital to our country. It's a tough business. We have to understand that. So, I could tell you other businesses that are different kinds of business. They're very good businesses, but airlines have always been very, very tough. Please.
Mr. President.
Please. Yeah, I didn't call you. I called this gentleman.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
He seems to be deliberately not going to CNN, by the way. I don't know if you noticed.
I'm with Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Bloomberg News. Mario Parker.
How's Michael doing? Good?
Mr. President, on Monday, did you speak with Chinese President Xi before you urged Americans to not blame Asian Americans for the coronavirus? We noticed that you've backed off of that language. I know you're speaking with him again
No, I
tonight.
didn't. I'm speaking to him tonight. It's scheduled to go tonight. I'll have a call with President Xi of China. Very good relationship. No, I didn't like when they came up, and it wasn't him. Somebody at a lower level, mid-level, we found out pretty much. But they made a statement that our soldiers brought it into China. No, it came from China. And, we just signed a very big deal with China. They're paying us a lot of money in tariffs.
Remember, the question was, why are you no longer calling it the Chinese virus?
Taking advantage of the United States until I came here with Sleepy Joe Biden and Obama and Bush and everybody else. I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming everybody. They were allowed to $500 billion a year they were taking out. We had trade deficits that were so large, nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Question was, why'd you stop calling it the Chinese virus?
Look, now we're taking in billions of dollars, and we gave some to our farmers because China, they targeted our farmers. And our farmers are very happy, and our farmers got through a very rough period because of what I was able to do. Took the money from China and gave it to the farmers, and we had plenty left over after that. Now we're going into a phase 2 negotiation with China, but we're getting 25% on $250 billion. And
the question was, why'd you stop calling it the Chinese virus?
After that. So we've never had a deal with China. China took advantage of the United States. And you know what? I don't blame China for that. I blame the people that were right here because they should have never allowed it to happen. But the relationship with China has been a very good one. John?
Mr. President,
the question was, why'd you stop calling it the Chinese virus?
That language down or to not use that?
He never asked me to comment down. No. Somebody might have spoken to somebody, but nobody spoke to me about it.
Someone spoke to someone.
Because, I talk about the Chinese virus, and I mean it. That's where it came from. If you look at Ebola, if you look at all Lyme, right? Lyme, Connecticut, you look at all these different horrible diseases, they seem to come with the name, with the location. And this was the Chinese virus.
It's back.
But I don't have to say it. If they feel so strongly about it, we'll see. But, we have... We just made a great deal with China, great hopefully for both parties, but we made a deal with China, and we're going to do another one, it looks like. They want to do it very badly. Maybe they'll want to wait, like Iran. They want to wait to see whether or not Trump gets beaten in the election, because would they love to negotiate with Biden or somebody else other than me? They would love it. That's their best dream in the world. So many others. So there are some that maybe are, waiting till after November 3rd, the election day. But I think we're doing very well. It would be sad if we blew all of the advantages that we have right now, because we've made unbelievable trade deals, whether it's Mexico, Canada, Japan, South Korea, China, and others.
China.
We have changed the whole thing around. Please.
Mr. President, earlier today you sent a notification letter to the nation's governor saying that you will soon
Notice
come
he's
out
gone
with
to Roberts twice. He still hasn't gone to Caitlin Collins from CNN once.
and other items. Do you have any data yet to suggest which specific areas of the country may have their guidelines relaxed, which areas of the country may have their guidelines
I think
tightened?
Deborah will talk to you about that, and Tony in a few minutes. But I think we'll start talking about that, because we have to open up. We can't say, let's close. People don't want to close, John. I say it again and again. The reason I do, because I want you to report it eventually. Go ahead, Steve.
How would that work without widespread
Go ahead,
testing,
Steve.
though, Mr. President?
Yeah, still not going to
What do you
Caitlin.
want to talk to him about?
Yeah, it's his call. I mean, I'll talk to him whatever he wants to. I mean, we'll have, I think, a very fruitful call. We'll have a good call tonight at 9 o'clock, please.
about the virus, though, sir?
Yes, in the back. We'll be talking about that. Yeah, we'll be talking about the virus.
Thank you.
Yeah, in the back first, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Despite the jobless claim numbers today,
Oh,
the
no,
market
the
rallied
crazy
again.
seat.
It's up over 4,000 points the last 3 days
Yeah,
working.
record.
Yeah, the largest charge since 1931. Do you think that the economic uncertainty has passed?
Uncertainty.
No, not yet. It hasn't passed, but it's come a long way. I think they think we're doing a really good job in terms of running this whole situation having to do with the virus. I think they feel that. I think they feel the administration, myself and the administration, are doing a good job of keeping, very importantly, people informed, because there was a great fear, and a lot of good things are happening. The mortality rate is at in my opinion, you'll have to speak to Deborah, Tony, all of the others, but in my opinion, it's way, way down. And that takes a lot of fear out. You know, it's one thing to have it, it's another thing to die. You know, when I first got involved, I was being told numbers that were much, much higher than the number that seems to be. And remember that people that have it, many people have it. I just spoke to 2 people, they had it. They never went to a doctor. They had it, absolutely had it, but they never went to a doctor. They never went to anything. They didn't report it. You have thousands and hundreds of thousands of cases like that. So you have to add that to the caseload also.
So he's admitting that we have hundreds of thousands. Okay.
That percentage is a much lower percentage than I ever thought. That's one of the reasons I say, look, we're going to beat this and we're going to get back to work. Yes, please.
Administration today, the DOJ announced charges against Nicolas Maduro for drug trafficking. They've designated him as a narco-terrorist. It's also expected that Venezuela is going to get hit really hard by the coronavirus. Does the administration see this as a weak point for the Maduro regime?
No, we don't look at a weak point. This is a serious problem for over 150 nations, the virus. I would say this, Maduro and Venezuela, we're watching it very closely. We'll see what happens. But that is correct. Those charges were made. Please.
You said a moment ago that you used the Defense Production Act on 2 minor occasions.
Yeah.
What were those occasions?
We will give you that notification. We'll let you know. Okay?
Can I follow up on John's question about the classifying for counties? A lot of these areas have not done testing yet. Is it safe to say that the current guidelines will be extended into next week? Will you wait to change those guidelines until you have the data yet?
I want those guidelines to go even when we're open and fully operational. And frankly, much of the guidelines, like shaking hands, maybe people aren't going to be shaking hands anymore.
He wants shaking hands to end.
You know, Tony had mentioned to me, Tony Fauci, the other day that I don't think he would be too upset with the concept of not shaking hands. He was saying that the flu would cut down, the regular flu would be cut down by quite a bit.
And handshakes.
If we didn't do that, if we didn't shake hands. You know, the regular flu, of which, you know, you have a lot of deaths and a lot of problems with that too. So I think a lot of great things are going to, when we're open, just to finish, when we're open, as soon as we open, that doesn't mean you're going to stop with the guidelines. You'll still try and distance yourself, maybe not to the same extent because you have to lead a life. But I think the time is coming. How about one more question? Go ahead.
Wow,
in
so
the
he's
back.
ignoring CNN, literally.
Go ahead, please.
I also have 2 questions because I'm asking on behalf of foreign press as well. So one domestic question, one international. Domestically, you just tweeted the other day saying that it's very important that we totally protect Asian Americans.
Yes, I do. Very important to me.
But still millions.
Very important to me. We have to protect our Asian Americans. It's a very important. That was a very important tweet to me because I didn't like things that I was hearing. Please go ahead.
What's the concrete measure that you're taking to combat the hate crimes against Asians?
Well, I don't know. All I know is this.
That he can't tell you. Yeah.
Asian Americans in our country doing fantastically well. I'm very close to them, as you know. And they're doing fantastically well,
Asians
and I
and
think
Jews
they
are just doing
appreciate the
so
job
well
they're
here.
doing. But I did want to put that statement out, the social media statement.
Dear God.
Because to me, Asian Americans are a great part of our country. Thank you all very much. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Ignoring CNN, of course. I can hear Caitlin Collins yelling up at him. And off he goes.
Well, good afternoon, everyone.
The coronavirus task force met today.
White House coronavirus task force met today. We continue to move.
Okay. So let's just mute Pence for a little bit just so I can get caught up on stuff. You see Caitlin Collins sitting here, and of course she's now texting someone. He literally just ignored me the entire time. Didn't call on her. Clearly a sign that he is very, very angry. Let me just get new member thank yous out of the way to get caught up. Douglas McLeod is new member number 10. Sorry, 10, not 19. AO is new member number 11. Carolyn Walker's new member number 12. Debbie Handy is new member number 13. Also want to say thanks to Ryan Laffler, who's new member number 14. Jonathan Lingsch is new member number 15. Pablo Quellar is new member number 16. Carol Skivrin is new member number 17. I know I missed a few, but I'll get back to them. Best way to support the streams, of course, daily, is grab a membership at joinpacman.com. Do people want to hear Pence's daily thing, or do we want to wait a little bit until we hear from Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx? Because we've got just a ton of questions from people, a lot of thank yous coming in via Super Chat. Ken Dale says, voices like yours are important, David. I very much appreciate that. Maybe if Pence holds up the PowerPoint, we go to that. I don't know. It's just very hard to say. But I think we kind of have a sense. Pence says the exact same thing every day. Jeremy Comfort says, I'm autistic. Thank you for keeping me calm. My pleasure. Paul Burbridge says, thanks, David, for the great work you do. Elements of Medical says, my new screen name. I love that. Elements of Medical. Mascot says, I tuned out. Are we talking about the virus yet? At some point in this, Trump did mention the virus. That's true. But Satirical Symphony says NPR Seattle isn't broadcasting these anymore. Yeah, I read that. I think that the right thing to do is to broadcast them, but fact check them as best we can. That's the effort that I make. And I know that different people have different perspectives on that. But that's my preference. Thanks to iPlugs and Tnavras and I Am CompuBear. Let's go back and listen to Pence a little bit. I'm sure talking about 15 days to stop the spread.
552,000 tests have been performed and completed all across the United States. We want to thank the American Hospital Association and hospitals across the country that are just now beginning to report in a fulsome way the results of those tests. And when the president signs the law tomorrow, it'll actually be required by law. But as Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci have explained many times at this podium, it's so important that any hospital or any lab that's doing testing report back to the CDC and FEMA so we have full visibility to provide the president with the very best counsel. Good news today on testing. Abbott Laboratories submitted to the FDA today a request for approval of a point-of-care test. This would be the kind of test where you could go to your doctor. You could get the test done there at your doctor and have the results in no more than 15 minutes. Dr. Steve Hahn will be here tomorrow to talk about progress in evaluating Abbott Laboratories' point-of-care test. Also, speaking of the FDA, on the subject of swabs, the FDA did announce earlier this week that testing symptomatic patients by swabbing from the front of the nose is perfectly appropriate, and it's already begun across the country. It allows for self-collection, and it also relieves the burden on healthcare protection. It saves personal protective equipment from being expended when people can administer a test themselves. And Dr. Birx will speak about the importance and the availability of swabs. With regard to supplies, you heard the president speak about what we have already shipped out from the National Strategic Stockpile. More than 9 million N95 masks for healthcare workers, 20 million surgical masks, 6,000 ventilators.
We hear about a lot of stuff shipped out. We rarely hear about the shipments being received, which is weird to me.
With a number of suppliers to manufacture ventilators, even while we work with state leaders to assess not just what ventilators are available in their state hospitals, but what ventilators are available in private hospitals across their state. And governors across the country are doing great work evaluating the full supply of tens of thousands of ventilators that are available. Let me also say thank you to the American Society of Anesthesiologists and Dr. Mary Peterson. The American Society of Anesthesiologists actually produced a video. Tomorrow they will host a webinar for healthcare workers to demonstrate how the devices that anesthesiologists use can be very easily converted into a ventilator that's appropriate for a patient struggling with respiratory ailment like the coronavirus. And we're very grateful. This actually adds tens of thousands of devices to the supply, and we're all truly grateful to Dr. Peterson and the whole association for their full cooperation. With 5 of 10 counties in the country being the top counties for coronavirus, being in the New York City metropolitan area, let us reiterate our recommendation that any resident of the greater New York City area who has traveled elsewhere in the United States, please check your temperature, mind your health, and self-isolate for 14 days. What we don't want, again, with 5 of the top 10 counties for coronavirus being in the greater New York City area, we don't want anyone, and no one would want to, inadvertently carry the coronavirus to a community or to a family member inadvertently because they've come out of that community. So again, as Dr. Fauci said recently, if you've come out of New York over the last several weeks, before the mitigation measures are put into effect, in particular,
weird.
Check your temperature, mind your health, and self-isolate for 14 days. It is inspiring as I prepare to introduce Dr. Birx to talk about the data that we're monitoring on a regular basis, and Dr. Fauci to talk about mitigation. Let me conclude by saying how inspiring it is to see the way America and the American people are responding to this moment. We all were awakened this morning with record unemployment numbers, not unexpected during the time of national crisis that we are facing. But what you may not know is that while there were some 3 million plus new unemployment claims, Walmart announced they're hiring 150,000 new associates through the end of May. Amazon, a few weeks back, announced they're hiring 100,000 additional warehouse employees to meet a growing demand at Amazon for online purchases. CVS Health is going to provide bonuses to their employees working with patients. And
so 3.3 million lost their jobs, but there will be 250,000 temps hired. So, you do the math.
And that's just a short summary of a list that totals almost 500,000 jobs that have been announced by businesses around America. And it's not just been about jobs, it's been about generosity. Anheuser-Busch is making a $5 million donation to the American Red Cross to support first responders. OYO Hotels is offering doctors, nurses, and first responders free rooms at any of their 300 hotels all across America. And the pharmaceutical company, AbbVie, is actually donating $25 million to the International Medical Corps and to Feeding America. American businesses are stepping up to partner with us to meet this moment, but they're being incredibly generous as well to all of those that are stepping in the lead and providing healthcare services and, of course, to those most in need. We can do this, America, but it'll take all of us. As the president often says, we're all in this together. But as millions of Americans do their part, with 15 days to slow the spread, putting into practice the president's guidelines for combating the coronavirus and its spread, we grow more confident every day that this too shall pass with the cooperation and generosity and prayers.
Funny, every day it gets worse, and every day they're more confident that it's almost over. I mean, in a sense, every day we're a day closer to the end, but it's going to get worse before it gets better.
And now for information on the latest on data and what we're seeing.
For actual information, we're going to bring a doctor up here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So just as a summary of where it looks domestically, I won't talk so much about the global issues at this time. We do have 19 out of our 50 states, to be reminded, that had early cases but have persistently low level of cases, and at this point have less than 200 cases. So that's almost 40% of the country with extraordinarily low numbers. And they are testing. Some of our governors have been very adamant about their need for test kits. We have gotten them test kits. When we had Abbott add about a week ago to the test kits, we've been able to open up additional test kits for states that want to do surveillance and want to do contact tracing. These 19 states are doing still active containment. They're at 200 cases despite the fact that they've been measuring them over the last 3 to 4 weeks. Still, though, 55% of all cases and 55% of all new cases continue out of the New York metro area. That's the New Jersey part and New York part in particular. I haven't added in Connecticut or other counties at this point. We are concerned about certain counties that look like they're having a more rapid increase. When you look at Wayne County in Michigan and you look at Cook County in Chicago. So we have integrated all of our information to not only look at where the cases are today, but how they're moving, so we can alert FEMA to where we think the next potential hotspot is. All of the counties that I've mentioned, the hotspots are in urban areas or in the communities that serve that urban area. And I think that's something very important to remember as we move forward. Because of the innovations within our private sector, we continue to have these new platforms added for laboratory testing. And these become critical platforms for states that have very low rates and very low rates needed to test. Why is that important? Some of these machines have wells and plastic plates that, in order to be effective, you have to put on about almost 96 samples. And others are made for 4 samples or 24 samples at a time. So what's critical for us to be able to do is to match the need to the county and state. And that's the role that we can provide advice on, because we get to see across the whole country and where those items are needed most. And so this is allowing us to adapt and adopt really allocation of tests or recommendations to state of what piece of equipment they may need. Of the 550,000 tests, you can do the math, but we're still running somewhere about 14% overall. That means 86% of the people with significant symptoms, because remember, you had to have a fever and symptoms to get tested at this point. So still 86% are negative. These are really important facts for the American people. I'm sure many of you saw the recent report out of the UK about them adjusting completely their needs. This is really quite important. If you remember, that was the report that said there would be 500,000 deaths in the UK and 2.2 million deaths in the United States. They've adjusted that number in the UK to 20,000. So 500,000 to 20,000. We're looking into this in great detail to understand that adjustment. I'm going to say something that's a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try to do it in a way that we can all understand it together.
Because she thinks because of Trump we won't understand anything.
Either you have to have a large group of people who are asymptomatic, who've never presented for any test, in order to have the kind of numbers that were predicted.
Right.
To get to 60 million people infected, or of 6 million people infected, you have to have a large group of asymptomatics, because in no country to date have we seen an attack rate over 1 in 1,000. So either we're only measuring the tip of the iceberg of the symptomatic cases, and underneath it are a large group of people.
Yes.
So we're working very hard to get that antibody test, because that's a good way to figure out who are all these people under here and do they exist.
Need that.
Or we have the transmission completely wrong. So these are the things we're looking at, because the predictions of the models don't match the reality.
Imagine thinking that that's too complicated for people. That's how we've been dumbed down by this presidency, where she's like, I might speak a little too complexly here.
So if we were Italy and you did all those divisions, Italy should have close to 400,000 deaths. They're not close to achieving that. So these are the kinds of things we're trying to understand. Models are models. We're adapting now to the reality. There's enough data now of the real experience with the coronavirus on the ground to really make these predictions much more sound. So when people start talking about 20% of a population getting infected, it's very scary. But we don't have data that matches that based on the experience. And then finally, the situation about ventilators. We were reassured in meeting with our colleagues in New York that there are still ICU beds remaining, and there's still significant over 1,000 or 2,000 ventilators that have not been utilized yet. Please, for the reassurance of people around the world, to wake up this morning and look at people talking about creating DNR situations, do not resuscitate situations for patients. There is no situation in the United States right now that warrants that kind of discussion. You can be thinking about it in a hospital. Certainly many hospitals talk about this on a daily basis. But to say that to the American people, to make the implication that when they need a hospital bed, it's not going to be there, or when they need that ventilator, it's not going to be there. We don't have an evidence of that right now. And it's our job collectively to assure the American people that it's our collective job to make sure that doesn't happen. Right now, you can see these cases are concentrated in highly...
Guys, how much better is this when Trump leaves the room and the doctors get to just talk? It's just so much better.
Other parts of New York State that don't have any infections right now. So we can be creative, we can meet the need by being responsive, but there's no model right
She may be totally lying, but it's better.
on the ground where we can see that 60 to 70% of Americans are going to get infected in the next 8 to 12 weeks. I just want to be clear about that. So we're adapting to the reality on the ground. We're looking at the models of how they can inform, but we also are learning very clearly from South Korea and from Italy and from Spain. Just a final, because I know many of you will look up my numbers. The only people who are over really 1 in 1,000 cases are people that have very small populations, like Monaco and Liechtenstein. So you will see a different number coming from when your population is really tiny. One case can put you over 1 to 1,000 or 2 to 1,000. Thank you.
Good. We'll do questions in a moment. Dr. Fauci.
Fauci.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'm going to change the topic just a little bit because there was questions that came up, and I've been asked about this on a couple of media interactions regarding the interventions that we're talking about. And it's important because it's about something that I said yesterday about what we would likely see. Whenever you put the clamps down and shut things down, you do it for two reasons. You do it to prevent the further spread, this we call mitigation, but you also do it to buy yourself time to get better prepared for what might be a rebound. It may be a rebound that we get things really under control, and then you pull back, which ultimately we're going to have to do. Everybody in the world is going to have to do that. You're either going to get a rebound or it might cycle into the next season. So what are we going to do to prepare ourselves for that? One of the most important things is one that I mentioned several times from this podium, and that is to clarify a bit about the timeline for vaccines. And would that have any real impact on what we would call a rebound or what we would call a cycling in the season?
Right.
Certainly, for sure, a vaccine is not going to help us now, next month, the month after. But as I mentioned to you, we went into a phase 1 trial, and I keep referring to one vaccine. There's more than one. There's a couple of handfuls of vaccines at different stages of development, but they're all following the same course. And the course is you first go into a phase 1 trial to see if it's safe, and you have very few people, 45 people within a certain age group, all healthy, none at really any great risk of getting infected.
Right.
The reason you do that, because you want to make sure that it's safe. Then the next thing you do, and that takes about 3 months, easily, maybe more. So that's going to bring us into the beginning or middle of the summer. Then you go to a phase 2 trial, or what we say 2-3, which means we're going to put a lot of people in there. Now, we hope that there aren't a lot of people getting infected, but it is likely there will be somewhere in the world where that's going on.
Yes.
So it's likely that we will get what's called an efficacy signal, and we will know whether or not it actually works. If, in fact, it does, we hope to rush it to be able to have some impact on recycling in the next season. And like I said, that could be a year to a year and a half. I'm not changing any of the dates that I mentioned. But one of the things that we are going to do that you need to understand that has been a stumbling block for previous development of vaccines.
Right.
And that is, even before you know something works, at risk, you have to start producing it. Because once you know it works, you can't say, great, it works. Now, give me another 6 months to produce it. So we're working with a variety of companies to take that risk. We didn't take it with Zika. That's why, we have a nice Zika vaccine, but we don't have enough to do it because there's no Zika around. Same with SARS. So that's one of the things we're really going to push on, is to be able to have it ready if, in fact, it works. Now, the issue of safety, something that I want to make sure the American public understand. It's not only safety when you inject somebody and they get maybe an idiosyncratic reaction, they get a little allergic reaction, they get pain. There's safety associated. Does the vaccine make you worse? And there are diseases in which you vaccinate someone, they get infected with what you're trying to protect them with, and you actually enhance the infection.
Right.
You can get a good feel for that in animal models. So that's going to be interspersed at the same time that we're testing. We're going to try and make sure we don't have enhancement. So the worst possible thing you could do is vaccinate somebody to prevent infection and actually make them worse. Next, and finally, with regard, I'll get you to your question. Finally, with regard to therapies, I mean, we keep getting asked about therapies. There's a whole menu of therapies that are going into clinical trial. As I've told you all, and I'll repeat it again, the best way to get the best drug as quickly as possible is to do a randomized controlled trial so that you know, is it safe and is it effective? If it's not effective, get it off the board and go to the next thing. If it is effective, get it out to the people that need it. So you're going to be hearing over the next month or more about different drugs that are going to go into these randomized controlled trials. And I feel confident knowing about what this virus is and what we can do with it, that we will have some sort of therapy that give at least a partial, if not a very good protection in preventing progression of disease.
Wow.
And we'll be back here talking about that a lot, I'm sure. Thank you.
Guys, I am now officially an authoritarian Faucist, okay? Make that tip, spread the word. Like I mentioned, I have a hard out at 6:30. I've got to run. I will stream again tomorrow. Thanks to everybody joining me. Pick up the questions on somebody else's